Hello and welcome to When Pigs Fly. This is episode 3, and today we're going to talk about masks. And so I'm going to lead this conversation with ways that I help people guide them to noticing that they're even wearing a mask. So, how do you show up as a partner? How do you show up maybe as a parent? How do you show up at work and with your friends? If you feel that you're putting on a different persona in each of these arenas, those are all masks. And but they're there to serve you. And but when you're aware of it, we're going to talk about, how can we embrace our true self and our authenticity and tear that mask off and just be you. It's a lot easier, isn't it? Renee, you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love that because you're right. We're always putting on these things and we don't recognize it. That's the thing. I think the awareness has to come around where you set that whole intention, that whole thought in the morning of, okay, you know what? I'm going to be very aware of when I am not being my authentic self. And what's interesting is when you say or you think that, you do notice and you do recognize. Like I used to become somebody completely different in the car, and I've gotten much better because driving, man, that mask went on, that angry mask, that crazy mask went on. And what's funny is like when I started to realize it, because my daughter was always like, "Oh my God, you are crazy! Like, what's wrong with you?" Like people don't know. But then recognizing that, because then somebody else, one of my friends was driving with me and she said, "Man, you are so totally different in the car than you are in life." And that really was my awareness because I was okay with being, who I was in the car. And that was my awareness to then say, "Oh my God, you know what? You're right. Like I've got to shift this." So I think we don't recognize, we think, "Oh my God, we're this person and okay, this is who and what I am. And I'm, really pretty happy and I'm pretty jovial." And then you're okay with being this other person
Yeah.
where like you normally wouldn't be. And until somebody brought it to my attention, and then it was okay, now I'm going to make a conscious effort. So now what I do is if someone drives crazy or someone cuts me off, whatever, I'm usually pretty good. Like my husband would like, "Beep your horn." And I was like, "Why? I knew it was coming. I saw it. I knew what was happening. I'm gonna have to beep my horn. I'm all good. Like we didn't get in an accident. We're good." But sometimes if I still get that anger and they really almost kill me or whatever, I'm like, "All right, I'm just sending you fucking love." And I don't, because I'm always usually like throwing one hand, but it's just like that. And then I see them giving me finger. I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, you have no idea what I just sent you, but that's okay." But you
That's
know,
enough for receiving.
exactly. But
It's
it
not
really
quite ET, but you're
But it
receiving
is,
it.
like, it's interesting that really being aware, self-aware of how you are showing up and recognizing that as exactly what you said, Patty, is a mask on. And recognize, do I want this mask on? Is this what I want? Because we're gonna have to, because we're all one, we're gonna have to shift in and bring all of our parts together as one. Otherwise, there's just a separation within us. And that separation gonna continue to grow. And that's not us being authentic and being one with even us. And that shows up in our physical body as some type of illness or something, or just something that we don't want in our life. So it's forcing us. It's almost like your body talking to
Yeah.
you and being like, "Look at me, look what's happening. We have a
Yeah.
separation here. What do you want to do about it?"
Yeah. And
Makes
it's the
sense?
question is, do you want to deny your soul?
Yes,
Because when you put the mask on, you're denying your soul. That your
absolutely.
heart is where your desires come from. And if you get caught up in, I just really want to feel accepted right now, and I'm going to shit on my soul to do it, right?
Mm,
Then it becomes, and sometimes you do have to exaggerate the picture to really see it for what it is and go, our soul, the guidance that comes in is, hey, follow your desire. Don't stop trying to fit into somebody else's journey. And it does take, and you can do it in little increments that you're comfortable with, right? Because I understand, hey, okay, but I've been wearing this mask for years, how do I? And it's like there's a relief that comes in being authentic, and it changes how people respond to you too. It
yeah.
absolutely does. 100%. I believe that.
Mhm.
Tracy.
So I'm going to throw in a little variance. Seems to be my specialty. Because absolutely. I mean, the masks, it was years ago that I really took a look of all what I called was the fractals of me. Just me, all about me, just me as a wife, me as a mother, me as a business owner, and how each essence of each of those fractals had a different formula of what it meant. And they're all beautiful and they're all real. We have all these fractals of ourselves that are true. They are authentic. And it's for me, it's been honoring each of them, but allowing maybe one to come to the forefront in different scenarios. And it's been a very interesting journey and to watch because it's not wearing a mask. It's honoring the different, I like to say, the fractals of yourself, that is the oneness. You're not playing a role, you're not showing up inauthentically. I know again, I like to throw in the complexity, which is kind of cool because you are the possibility and the availability to show up in different variances of yourself is amazing. Like,
Yeah.
of course,
Yeah.
we want that,
Yeah.
right?
When you're doing that though, you're honoring your whole self.
Yes.
That's the difference. You're absolutely doing that. And that's the mastery. You honor your whole self. And then in the moment, you're going with that. Okay, here's the part of this is the part of me that's coming in and is authentic. And it's, and so, yeah, that's the mastery when you're showing up as your whole self,
Right. And we sort of,
right?
I think we touched on that in episode 1 or 2. That was that whole aspect of really accepting you for you,
Yeah.
honoring every aspect of you and not judging that, not judging who and what you are, because that real acceptance and that love that starts to bring your system back into that wholeness and back into being very comfortable with being who and what you are in each and every moment. And that ends all of that separation. It brings in that true oneness. And then other people see you that way because all of a sudden you would have normally thought, I can't say this because they're going to take it the wrong way. And then you say, and it comes out with animosity or comes out with anger or whatever it is. And all of a sudden, when you start to really accept you in every moment and recognizing there's nothing wrong with me, I mean, being very aware of, look at this is not how I want to show up. If you want to show
Yeah.
up angry and that's your truth, go to it. Okay.
Yeah.
But otherwise, when you're coming back into that oneness and you say something like, you know what, no, I don't really want to do that today. And normally they'd have been like, oh my God, what's wrong? All of a sudden they accept it, or I don't want to go there.
Yeah.
You can go. I don't want to go there. All of a sudden it's accepted. And I had that experience in my life and I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get all sorts of shit for that. Which was interesting because that was my thought. Oh, I'm gonna get all
Yeah.
sorts of shit knowing I would. But all of a sudden they came back and they're like, oh my God, everybody's asking how you were, where you were. But any other time I was, the asshole for not showing up or not going.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting when you give yourself permission to be you, how really
It's
wonderful everybody else reacts.
it's freedom.
Yes.
Ditching the mask is, when people say I want to experience freedom, it's usually us that's holding ourselves prisoner. But
Yes.
di- ditch the mask. Who am I? What do I really feel? And it's true. I've experienced that more and more too, Renee, where it's like, okay, in the past, they'd be like, no, almost like, no, you can't say no. Right.
Right.
Oh, but and it's the, guilt or shame. And it's like, no, I don't roll that way anymore. So, but
Mhm.
it's absolutely true that you do see the behavior around you definitely shifts. And yeah, it's loving yourself and not judging yourself and really not get you really can't give a shit about what other people think about you. You really can't. And however that's been perceived in the past, that's like that's gone and our true freedom comes in ditching the mask.
Mhm.
Ditch the mask. And then like Tracy said, play. Ooh, what part of me gets to play in this situation? And it's play. You're right. And it's being authentic and being loving in the moment. And it's not, um, oh, okay, what do I think they want to hear? Now you're off. You've derailed. You've turned your GPS off, right?
Mhm. And recognizing, oh, wait a minute, I'm trying to show up for that person the way they want me to. And quite honestly, that's what we think they want. It goes, into like, judgment, which is a whole nother thing, but it goes into that part. Like, that's what I think they want. Well, you know what? When you show up authentically, they might be like, oh my God, this is freaking awesome. I love this person this way. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
again, it's our
Yeah.
judgment of what, they want us to be. And they don't know who the heck we are. I mean, and, a lot of people will say, I'll say, go out there and, speak how wonderful you are. And they're like, isn't that just me boasting? Isn't I can't do that. That's, that's me being so selfish and all the other names for it. And I said, you know what? Who else knows you better than you?
Yeah.
You're the one who knows all of your wonderful things. Like I used to, there was a conversation one day of these, neighbors, my old neighborhood, and they're talking about me. And, I walked up and all of a sudden I got really quiet. And I'm like, hey, you're going to talk about me. Let me talk about me. I know all of the shit in my body and I know all the shit happening in my life. I'm the best person to talk to. It was like, so it's the point, but it's that aspect of exactly what you said, Patty, and one of them. And that's what I always tell my clients. Doesn't matter what anybody thinks about you. It's none of your goddamn business what anybody says about you, good or bad.
True.
What you
That's
feel.
yes, including the good,
Yeah.
because if anything that's going to derail you from being your true self is not benefiting you, and you can't care, because then otherwise you're feeding off that. It's well, we know it's an ego, right?
Yeah. And what are you
Right.
doing? You're putting on another mask because,
It's
oh,
another.
that's what they're saying about me. Oh, this must be
Oh,
who I am, or I'm going to be angry, and you put it back on. It's like,
yeah,
keep them off.
yeah. All right, Tracy, you look like I can tell she's got a perspective that we haven't thought of. Let's go, Tracy. I can feel it coming.
Well, and it's just interesting how I was thinking we have so many conversations with different angles, because this really goes back to our original conversation of showing up with integrity in every moment unattached,
Yes.
right? I mean, and so we're getting another layer of that, of what masks are you wearing and why are you wearing them, or why are you, do you, there's so many conversations just in that, in different ways to look at it. And I was listening to someone about, everyone's got their lock screens on their phone and all their, I have teenagers, mind you, I forget what they call them, fake accounts, spam, on all their social media. And I had to say, now I don't do a lot of social media. I'm like, I would let anyone look at my phone or anything. Like I was like, oh, I don't think I'm creating mystery images of myself. And then you start think of how many people don't like even their spouses. Like, I'm like, really? What
Yeah.
are you hiding?
Yeah.
Aren't you, what's going
Yeah.
on here? Right?
Have at it.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's crazy.
Renee, I love it. Trust me, I walk into rooms a lot and I'm like, you talking about me? Let's go. Like,
Exactly. I got all the dirt. I'll tell you all sorts
Yeah.
of stuff.
yeah.
If you want some
I'm not
really
afraid.
juicy stuff, yeah. Invite the expert in.
Exactly. And Patty, I think it was you earlier said, if you're putting in, those masks to be accepted, when the acceptance to fit in on that whole aspect, it's that whole component of you where exactly, I think you said this, like, it really check in with yourself, because so many of us are doing it and we don't recognize that, especially at work. Look at how many people, like, I'm going to, invite all of the listeners. How many people of you at work are putting on the masks just to fit in for the, water cooler talk or the coffee talk, all of that stuff. And isn't it okay for you to let go of the mask and say, I don't want to talk to them anymore? If you want a little break, get up and walk outside for, 5 minutes or whatever it is. Don't feel like you have to go into that whole little group. And I know some people, my clients, would say, oh yeah, but then they don't talk to me, and nobody will talk to me for the rest of the day or for the week, or then I'm out. Does
That's
that
not your
really
goal.
matter? Do you really
Yeah.
want to be a piece of that?
Yeah. Just show up and be you, and don't worry. Their reaction. And often what happens is the energy shifts in a way that they can't even begin to imagine.
Yeah. And what I used to do is I would just, in the morning, I'd be like, okay, I'm just surround and fill my whole body with this bubble of light. Okay. So I would just like feel like this like love or whatever it was. And I think then I didn't really know love, to be honest with you. So I've just been like, okay, I'm just, bringing in God's light and he's going to bubble me in this light. And then my thought was, okay, now this bubble's going to be here, but it's going to have a tunnel. So there's this tunnel in front of me. So before I get someplace, I'm going to let this tunnel clear the way. So I'm just going to have like this really beautiful experience and whatever. And what was really interesting is when I would go places, it really would be, you'd hear all the crap on the sides of you.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, that path would be good. And when I started to tell my clients to start to do that, and then when they got to work, if they were in a cubicle or an office or whatever they were in, remember that whole path was being cleared before. And now it's engulfing your entire cubicle, and let it go out as far as it can.
Yeah.
And it's just really that thought, like, okay, look, I'm going to surround my whole self with love, and I'm going to let it expand out as far as it can in this office or in this building or whatever it is. I was shocked at the amount of people that said to me, oh my God, I started doing that. And you would believe within 2 days, there was such a huge shift in the energy at work. People are being nicer. Things are getting done easier. There's not as much gossip. Like, it really is surprising when you can show up authentically for you, and then you're just spreading love out, the shifts and the changes that happen, even at people at home, how their husband showed up differently, or the wife showed up differently, or their kids showed up differently. It's really amazing.
You just, by the way, for anybody that missed that golden nugget, any of you empaths out there who we love, if you are an empath, that little piece of advice that Renee just gave works magically.
Yeah.
Magically, especially if you're more sensitive. The more sensitive you are to the energy, put that out there. Get your love bubble going.
Absolutely. I love the love bubble.
Me too.
Tracy, do you do the love bubble? Yeah, because I know you're always spreading that light and that love and all that stuff. Otherwise, do you always, like when you're going into your business, or even when you're home, because you can send it there, people. So when you're home, do you send that love out so that everything is much calmer?
It depends. I'm on a new track now. And I'll give you my simplest. I kind of take flashlights under the businesses and sometimes the school, my house, to reveal the untruths. So all truths revealed. So this can sometimes be seemingly not loving, but it is, because really at the end of the day, we do want truths revealed. We all want to live in a truthful, loving world. So I do love a lot, but honestly, I have been cleansing the truth revealed. That's how I really take. That's what I'm doing. I'm energizing. Yeah. And it's amazing. I'll use my businesses of the keep people that suddenly can't work there anymore because this happened. They didn't quit. Some circumstance happened that they can only work 4 days. I'm like, interesting. Right. So I would like to say that is from a place of love, but it might not be conveyed that way. It's more of, let's all get into an alignment so we can all be loving. Does that make sense?
Well, the truth is love, though.
Yes.
Because remember, the only truth is love. So it absolutely is. And it may not, right? And sometimes, like you said, shining the light on the truth may feel uncomfortable, especially if we've been wearing a lot of masks, or we're dealing with people who are wearing a lot of masks.
Yes. Bingo.
Right? Now it's Tracy's trying to lift my mask up. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Thank you
Right?
for that was beautiful how you brought it back around to the masks. It's pretty much, thank you. I'm putting a demask fogging under everything. And either take your mask off and show up loving and authentic, or I don't know, you pop out of the equation. Like, I can't explain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, that goes right back to Patty, I think last session, when you were saying it's not when you're shifting and changing, you're becoming you. And those around you that don't vibrate with you, that just don't have that same energy, just start to fall off very naturally, very easily.
Things just come up. And I experienced this in my real estate company last year. I could tell that I had a guy struggling in fear. I knew it. And he seemed interested in trying to, get around it, but I mean, I knew it. And a couple of people said, do you, I think you should have a conversation, let him go. And I said, no, I think that it's just going to happen. What's supposed to happen, he will either plug in and go this way, or, and I never had to do anything. Circumstances started coming up that pulled, like, no option, pulled it off. I never had to do it. It was beautiful because he was like, I was so grateful for the time that I spent, and it was beautiful. And so that's why, like, don't let the brain anticipate that something horrible is going to happen because you show up as you, and like, like Tracy is doing a favor, let me help you with that mask there. Right? That is love, right? It really is. And it's such a powerful thing. And the masks don't serve us. And like I said, at the end of the day, what we're doing is, in this self-realization, right? We're here to feed our soul and have some freaking fun and experience life. And you can't do that through the mask. You
Yeah,
can't do that through the mask. You're absolutely you're cutting off your own gifts,
absolutely. And I
right?
think that's the key, Patty. You just, nailed it. And life is supposed to be fun. We're these beautiful spiritual beings of light, true oneness. Like, let go of all the judgment of who and what everybody is. And that's probably our next thing, judgment. But it's the like, let that go and, be you and have fun. Have fun in life. Life is supposed to be fun. When you're in that fun and that joy, everything flows. Just
Yeah,
flows naturally and easily. Have you both noticed that? Like, right? Like,
absolutely.
mhm,
Absolutely. And setting setting that intention, like you said, like Renee, just being aware of your energy when you enter a room. When we all know, it's a prime example. Have you seen somebody enter a room and you go, oh, that you just, oh, I'm not going to go run and greet that person with a hug, right? They're right, versus the person that comes in and they're a bright shining light. What happens? Oh, right. Anybody that's in that, right? So it's like, be conscious of, okay, what energetic am I bringing in here, and noticing when you've been on robot mode.
mm,
Okay, I've been just right. Are you just showing up the same way every day, or are you choosing and getting yourself right? Take a few minutes and right, get into that energy and go with it. And there's nothing like, man, when you're in the zone, ah, like, that's where we're headed. We're headed to being in the zone more and more and more. It's just present. It's just being present, right?
yeah.
People say time flies when you're having fun. For me, time stops. I don't know there's a clock. When I'm having a good time, there
Mm,
there is no clock,
yeah.
right?
Yep. Yep. I agree. Like it just, and like you said, like everything flows and becomes so easy and so effortless. And you're just like, wow. You look back and you're like, wow, how did that happen? Because then you're really following your knowing, that true knowing that's within, and you're just doing things very naturally. And you look back like, well, wait a minute, how did I start doing that? Or why did I do that? But you see the benefits to it. And it's like, oh, and then people usually get in their head and like, well, how do I do that again? Just stop thinking, show up authentically, take all the masks off, be you, and have fun and joy. And it's just flies.
Yeah. And most of the time you're putting the mask on because you want love.
Yeah.
Give it to yourself first, right? People looking for a relationship, but they're looking for something else, right? Oh, I have to put a mask on because I want to know what they're looking for.
Yes.
Well, now this is the message you're saying to your potential relationship. Hi, I think I'm totally effed up and broken. But will you love me?
Right.
No, you're going to attract that, right? And
Yeah.
so it's, take the mask off, particularly, especially if you want a new relationship. Be you, because you want somebody that is a whole version of them too. Yeah,
Yeah.
otherwise, hey, we've all seen, do you know any mask to mask relationships? We've all seen
Right.
them. We've been in them,
Yeah. Yeah. And
right?
like you said, like if you love yourself, you can truly love yourself. That's when you're going to bring that ideal, perfect relationship to you. Like,
Yeah.
like attracts like, period. If you think you're effed up and whatever, well, what do you think you're going to attract? People are like, oh, why do I always attract the same type? They can't commit. I'm like, can you commit to yourself? You know, a lot of times I'm like, well, what does that even mean? I'm like, can you commit to doing your work, to loving yourself, to taking the time for you? Well, I don't really have time for that. Well, answer yourself right there,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
So we've got about 5 minutes left. And Tracy, so I'm curious if you can tie in, because we're actually referencing from Tracy's book series, Musings of the Mind here. And um what was your initial when this download came to you? Can you share a little bit about what things like came into your mind with like what kind of realizations did you have around the mask subject?
Well, I think that first of all, the awareness that we, try and not only play roles, but I'm going to dig a little deeper here of how we're supposed to show up as a good wife or a good mother, and really questioning that. There's all these how to, you should, it's your responsibility, pick any role. Well, that's what you do if you're a good mother. That's what you do if you're a good wife. So I think I started really questioning, not only are we self-chosen wearing masks that we know are untruths, but are we buying into the dogma of how we're supposed to show up, and then questioning it and being like, yeah, I'm not going to show up like that anymore. Just because you think being a good mother entails this, I don't resonate with that. So I'm not going to do it, even though everyone in the room is like, she's not being a good mother. So that's really where it started to come through of question and now question even more. Right?
Yeah. And do I really believe this?
Exactly.
Oh, if you have a mask on, if you really honestly say, do I really believe this? The answer is a resounding no.
Right.
And then you go, why am I doing this?
Right.
Right? Yeah, at the end of the day, it's not your belief. Because if
Mhm.
it was your belief, there's no mask you're being true, right? It's a cool little circle, isn't it?
It,
Yeah, it
it
We
is.
is.
just wound it way really tight here. I love that.
And just so you know, I don't know, I wrote that a couple years ago. I'm still showing up because then it changes. How I felt a couple days ago, like, well, what do I feel like it takes to show up to be a really good, passionate, supportive, loving wife? And then, a week from now, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do that anymore. You know what I mean? Like it's ever
Yeah.
changing, which is maybe a conversation because I keep getting the choice points. I
Yeah.
think we are leaving a phase of we have choices to entering into an energetic that the choices not will be made for us, but I know you guys know what I'm talking about. The energies are shifting drastically and quickly. And we're still in a little bit of that area that we can kind of play in the game of illusion and delusion, but it is very quickly coming in that is not going to be available anymore. Like we have to, right? I know this is a bigger
Yeah. Well,
conversation.
you're talking about essentially is that we have to be conscious creators. Which is
Exactly.
what, well, hello, welcome to the party, which is exactly what we all are. And it's
Yep.
the realization, this is the movement, the realization that we are conscious creators. And the reason everything got off Focaccia was because we fell into being unconscious creators and created a bunch of crap.
Yep.
And so, yeah, it's that, it's like what Tracy, you call, take responsibility. We are conscious creators and owning that and knowing, and it's not a scary thing. Like we're here to show it can be fun. And like, who doesn't want to show up as who they really are?
Right.
Right? Who doesn't? It's like for us, like the day where you don't want to put makeup on, who cares? Right? I don't have to put makeup on today because it doesn't define who I am. If I'm putting it on, it's because it makes me feel better. But other than that, am I putting it on for somebody? Nope. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
that's right. Why am I doing this behavior? Why am I making this choice?
Yeah.
So, Renee, any final thoughts while
Yeah.
we,
For those of you that don't know who you are, because I remember a time, like, if somebody would say this to me, I'm like, who the heck am I? Like, for those of you who don't, just ask yourself, what do I want to be?
love
It's
that.
an open slate, perfect canvas. What do you want to do? Paint yourself your truth and say, okay, well, I want to be happy. I want to be joyful. Okay, this is what I'm choosing today. And allow that to come in because you're shifting the energy, you're shifting that field and allowing that to come forward. Like start practicing with that. You'll be amazed at what starts to happen.
I love that. That is so true. And write down things you're passionate about. The
Yeah.
reason and having the recognition that everything that comes out of you and goes onto that paper came from your soul, came from higher intelligence.
Yes.
And be aware of that connection and play with it. So wow, perfect. Perfect
Yeah.
note. Tracy, any final thoughts?
No, I think you wrapped it up well.
Awesome. Well,
Choose, right? If one word, choose,
yep.
Yeah.
choice.
Yep.
Choose.
All
Choose
masks off.
you.
Choose to have all masks off.
Choose you. Ditch the
Yeah.
mask. So, well, thank you, ladies, again for a really fun and interesting, eye-opening discussion once again. And for anybody, if you're following us and you've subscribed, thank you. And if you're new to us, please hit the like and subscribe if this resonates with you. And please keep in mind, these are open discussions that we're having as our true selves. And only take what resonates with you. And if there's something that you want us to talk about that something that resonates with you that you want to hear more of, please drop it in the comments below. And we will look forward to seeing everybody on our next session. Ladies, I love you. Bye.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Bye.